So hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. Hope you guys are all doing well. Andrew Musgrove here. Please do hit thumbs up, hit subscribe as well. Not the video that I wanted to be bringing you. Newcastle have lost 4-1 to Aston Villa down at Villa Park. I was confident that Newcastle United could get the win this afternoon. I thought it would be a very close game. A goal in it. I predicted 2-1. Sadly, I was very badly mistaken. And Newcastle United were lucky that they've lost by just 4 goals, because in truth it could have been and was closer to 10 given the chances and the number of times Aston Villa hit the woodwork. Of course, look, plenty of context to why Newcastle United have lost this game in such fashion. Squad depth is probably the main one. Aston Villa able to make 4 changes to the side that beat PSG in the Champions League but went out overall in the tie. Newcastle United playing their 7th game in a row with the same starting 11, and it just shows you Newcastle have not got the depth. The team looked tired, looked like they lacked energy, and in the end Aston Villa blew them away in what was a fantastic performance by Unai Emery's men. Now, plenty of benefits to playing a consistent starting 11. It means everybody's in good form. Why would you change your winning side? And after all, Newcastle United were looking to get their 7th win in a row. It proved too far for them to go. But yes, why would you change your winning side? But it only works, I think, if you've got the depth behind you to be able to make a change or to bring game changers off the bench if indeed Newcastle United's afternoon was going as badly as it was this afternoon at Villa Park. And Newcastle don't have those names on the bench. Only really Anthony Gordon is the big name on the bench that you could look to bring on and hope to change a game. And when he came on, the game was well and truly gone from Newcastle's grasp. Otherwise, it's Joe Willock, it's Callum Wilson, it's Emil Kraft. And with all due respect to those players, they're not game changers. I mean, Marcus Rashford, Ross Barkley, Nana came off the bench for Aston Villa, and right there you can see the difference in depth between the two sides. And we've said this before on the podcast, if Newcastle United managed to make the Champions League, which they're still in the driving seat, by the way, don't panic yet. Newcastle are still 3rd, still got a couple of points on those down in 5th and 6th. So don't worry about it. I wouldn't panic just yet. But if Newcastle do make it, it will be nothing short of a miracle that Eddie Howe has coached this side into a Champions League side once again, because the depth is just not there. It's not just Aston Villa. It's Forest have got a better squad. It's Manchester City. It's Chelsea as well. They've all got better squads than Newcastle United, and yet Newcastle United remain 3rd and have a very winnable game against Ipswich on Saturday, which they need to win. They need to win in terms of getting 3 points, but they need to win it to ensure that this defeat to Aston Villa doesn't hurt too much. And the game earlier in the week coming up is Villa versus City, which is going to be a really interesting one. I'm sure a lot of eyes on Tyneside will be on that. Before that, we've got Fulham versus Chelsea on Sunday, a little bit of a West London derby. Fulham not out of the race for European qualification either, so fingers crossed they can put in a performance and beat Chelsea. If Chelsea win, they'll go up with 57 points, joint with Aston Villa. So that really narrows those 5 teams battling for those positions in the Champions League. And Arsenal, of course, remain 2nd. And look, Newcastle, I think, rightly would have had Arsenal in their minds if they could have beaten Aston Villa this afternoon, but it wasn't to be. And it does always go back to squad depth, and hopefully in the summer we can see Newcastle United somehow managing to spend a bit more money, because obviously PSR has meant in the last 3 windows they've not made a major signing, or at least one that boosts the starting 11, and we have to hope that with a bit of more revenue in their pocket they can somehow spend and start building a squad to really rival those teams around them, because that's what they're going to need to do, especially as well if indeed they do qualify for the Champions League. But squad depth doesn't tell the full story. It is a major factor in this afternoon's performance and result, but it doesn't remove the fact that there were some really big concerns on the pitch, namely the fact that Aston Villa tactically showed themselves to be superior right from the word go. 30 seconds into the game, and Ollie Watkins opens the scoring down their left, down Newcastle's right. He takes a little deflection off Fabian Schär into the back of the net. Some might call it a lucky goal. That's not really my concern. My biggest concern is the fact that all afternoon Aston Villa just hit Newcastle's right time and time again. 3 of Aston Villa's 4 goals came down that side Nothing was done. Nothing was learned from the first 33 seconds. And I have to question why. I have to wonder why nothing was done. Was it just that Aston Villa were too good on the day? Were Newcastle a little bit naive? Or did Newcastle just simply not have the remedy, either in personnel or tactically? Did they maybe just believe that they could attack Aston Villa and get back into the game and not worry about Villa's plan and going forward? But whatever it is, it backfired because Villa, executed it perfectly, but they were allowed to as well. And that is a big concern. It is a big concern. But we have to say, this is Newcastle's biggest test since winning the League Cup. They've gone up against Leicester. They've gone up against Brentford. They've gone up against, who did they beat? Crystal Palace the other day. We're in form, by the way. But in terms of a squad and players and talent and manager, Aston Villa is the first real big test. And they've fallen. They have done. But we have to put it into context. Newcastle United have won the last 6 games in all competitions. They've put themselves in a really strong position. People worried that after the League Cup win, they might just fall off the cliff totally. They haven't done. They've gone on this amazing run. And look, you beat Ipswich on Saturday and you're in the driving seat. Okay, they've got a few tough games coming up, Arsenal and Chelsea, what have you. But look, they've beaten Chelsea. They've beaten Arsenal. They can do it again. Newcastle are in a really good position. So let's not panic here. Let's not, really get concerned about this afternoon's performance and result. It's an off day for Newcastle. They've shown how good they are. They've just got to bounce back against Ipswich. And they will do because Ipswich, aren't great at all. And Newcastle are at home. So they have to win that. They have to win that and they will do. We have to hope Eddie Howe is back sooner rather than later. Although I have to say, I don't think he'll be maybe back before the end of the season. That's just my gut instinct. You don't want to rush back, but definitely you could have done with your manager on the touchline. Again, we wish him well. He's been discharged from hospital and we hope he has a speedy recovery. Newcastle just need to get back on the training pitch this week and just work on everything that went wrong today. They lacked creativity, they lacked spark. Aston Villa just had more intensity, more energy about them. Really, Aston Villa had everything that Newcastle had in the previous 2 games against Manchester United and Crystal Palace. Just more, energy about them, more zap and zoom, zip, whatever you want to call it around the pitch. They were just better. And when you have that battle between 2 teams and one team just seems to want it more in the afternoon, then if it's your team that's missing out on that, you might as well just pack up and go home. And I'm not doubting Newcastle's commitment or effort within the desire for 3 points. It just wasn't there this afternoon. They just couldn't match Villa. And it goes back to squad depth, I guess, again. But Newcastle United, as I say, in a great position. Don't panic, don't fear, don't worry. Back Jason Tindall, back Graham Jones to get the players back onto the training pitch. I think they'll be hurting after this result. I really, really do. Because you haven't just lost against a direct competitor, a direct rival. You've been badly embarrassed, by the way. Because when I say that could have been closer at 10, it really ought to have been closer at 10. I mean, they've hit the woodwork 3 times. Nick Pope's pulled off a couple of great saves. They were fortunate, they really were fortunate that it ended at just 4. So I think they'll be hurting. I think there'll be some truths being told in the dressing room that it was an unacceptable performance. I don't think they'll allow the fact of the lack of squad depth to kind of excuse what went on. They'll not be looking for excuses. They'll just get back to business this week and look ahead to Ipswich. Hopefully they can get a little bit more energy in the tank and we get back to the way they've been performing in recent weeks. And they need to, as we said there, they need to. But yeah, not a good afternoon down at Villa Park. Fingers crossed it's just a little bump in what will be a smooth journey into the Champions League for next season. But hey, they can't perform like this again. They can't perform like this again in any of the remaining games coming up because that race of the Champions League is so tight. Another slip up like this, Newcastle will fall. Fingers crossed they don't. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on tonight's game. Who was man of the match for you? Unfortunately, very difficult. Probably Nick Pope, which tells you exactly how difficult Newcastle's afternoon was. Nick Pope, despite conceding 4, was still man of the match. Every one of those players that we've talked about in recent weeks being stars just didn't turn up. Bruno, by the end of it, was letting his passion get the better of him. Joelinton was non-existent. Gennari was probably the better of the 3, but didn't really stand out as he has done in recent weeks. The fullbacks were getting at. The defence at one point looked all at sea, really panicked after Ollie Watkins got that goal. Dan Burn flying in, Fabian Schär maybe lucky not to be sent off. Was he last man? VAR checked it, deemed he wasn't. He got a booking. They were shocking at times, that defence, and that's not what we've been used to in recent games, not at all. They've been really good, so they need to snap out of that, get back to how they've been against the likes of Palace and Brentford and Leicester and what have you. And hopefully against Ipswich, we see the Newcastle United that we've seen in the previous 6 games. And this one is just written away, thrown away, don't worry about it. And it doesn't set the scene really for what's to come in the remaining weeks of the season. Isak needs service, to put it bluntly. He looked for another frustrated figure, and Villa just closed the wings off really, really easily. But someone put on social media, actually, could you imagine the goals that Isak would have if he was getting the service Ollie Watkins did? He'd be punching 30 easily, wouldn't he? So we need to see him getting a bit more service. That also lends a thought for the summer as well. But yeah, improvements needed across the entirety of the pitch if they're going to get back to winning ways against Ipswich. But fingers crossed they can do. We'll bring you an in-depth Monday show on a Tuesday because of the bank holiday, so watch out for that. But enjoy the rest of your Easter weekend. Unfortunately for Newcastle United, defeat to Aston Villa, but still in third, still in the driving seat, hopefully back to winning ways against Ipswich.